Support for The Art of Sway and all the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by Memento. If you have your own podcast, you know producing it is half the battle. Promoting it is the other half. What if you could upload your episode, video or audio, and have AI pull out the best moments to use in social media promotions? You can with Memento. Upload the video or audio, review the recommended clips, click a couple of buttons, customize the colors and fonts, and hit save. Instant Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Facebook or LinkedIn posts, all with video or audio embedded for dynamic promotions that drive people to the episode. And the AI kicks out show notes, transcripts, and even social media captions. All you do is review and post. Go check it out. MPN listeners can try it for free at bit.ly/MomentoMPN. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/MomentoMPN. Welcome to The Art of Sway, the podcast that uncovers the power of influence and its impact on all areas of our lives. I'm your host, Danielle Wiley. Each week, we'll explore the many facets of influence through candid conversations with industry insiders, from brand marketers to social workers, educators, leaders, and more. Let's dive in. As the Director of Content and Community at Ergobaby, Christina Soletti oversees social media, PR, education, and content, influencer marketing, and experiential marketing. She has developed and works to maintain the brand voice, manages the content, and works closely with influencers to tell authentic and compelling stories. She is a trained baby-wearing educator and has had the benefit of working with Dr. Bill Sears, Dr. Raylene Phillips, and Dr. Kirsten Uvnas-Moberg, among others, on the importance of baby-wearing and the fourth trimester. She is currently editing the baby-wearing book with Dr. Bill Sears. With a background in PR, reality TV, and filmmaking, she believes in the power of storytelling and the importance of strong and meaningful relationships. She is passionate about babies, baby wearing, birth, yoga, natural living, and healthy eats. When not online reading and writing about all of the above, she can be found spending time with her daughter, creating their family's story in their home of Los Angeles. It was so great catching up with Christina. She is a longtime Sway Group client and has become a friend and is just a businesswoman who I admire so much and just truly understands how to do influencer marketing right and is just a very interesting person. So I am excited for everyone to hear my conversation with her. It was fun chatting with her, and I think it'll be a fun listen. Well, hi, welcome. I'm so glad we're doing this. I feel like it's selfishly a chance to catch up with you under the guise of work.
I know. I was like, oh, another meeting. Oh, wait, I get to talk to Danielle. Great. It's like a break. I love it.
So I sent over some questions to you, and I had said that you've been our client since 2013. And I was like, I'm going to check for sure with my finance manager today. And it's actually 2012. So it's been 11 years that you've been a client.
Yeah. I mean, I started at Ergobaby in April of 2012. And I remember like those first days because the office wasn't even really set up because we had just moved. And I remember looking up because I'd already followed Rebecca Wolf and I was like, that's who I want. And that was it. That was and I just texted with Rebecca today, by the way. So 11 years, like you connect. So not only did we connect with work, but then Rebecca and I remained friends, which is thanks to you, we found each other. But
well, I think it was thanks to her. I think she introduced me to you.
Well, I think I reached out to her because I wanted to use, she was literally my first paid influencer with Ergobaby. And you were maybe representing her. So
that was back when we represented.
Exactly.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So then I did all the business, through you. And she provided the content. And it was so cute. It was something about wearing twins, the twins, Bo and Revy.
Yeah, it was Who Are You Wearing? Because it was like an Oscars thing.
That was the second one we did with her. So the first one was a twins one. And then the second one was Who Are You Wearing? It was right around the Oscars.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool.
It was amazing. Yeah.
So I just want to start, kind of set the stage because obviously we've established I've known you for 11 years. But for those who don't know you, you have a really interesting story. So I thought it would be fun if you could kind of share with us your journey, because you started as a reality TV producer and you are now director of social media and community at Ergobaby, which don't necessarily seem, that doesn't seem like the standard career path that one might take. So I thought it'd be interesting to
Right.
hear
Right.
kind of your journey.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's funny. I should say that I didn't start in reality TV. I started in marketing and PR. I'm going to date myself. I wrote the first website for Pete's, Pete's Coffee in the Bay Area. So I launched the very first Pete's.com.
I wrote the very first website for Ortega tacos.
Amazing.
So
Yes.
all of
Amazing.
us dating ourselves.
Amazing.
Yes.
So right. Yes, I'm 50. I'm Gen X.
With my quill
didn't have
pen. Yeah.
exactly quill pen and like typewriter. But I launched the first Pete. So I started out in marketing. I did retail marketing and PR. And then from PR, I moved to LA and I continued doing PR freelance, but then I also started doing some styling and producing of photo shoots. And then that's kind of how that morphed into reality TV. Was some of the producers I had met doing videos and whatnot, I just started working for them. So that was probably 10 to 15 years doing reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
And everything from, doing story, but I also did mainly promotions producing. So a lot of trade outs, a lot of, field producing. So I was working with brands and showing how they could integrate into the show, right? So it's kind of the same thing that I do now. I'm just on the brand side in a way.
Interestingly, this is like one of my big pet peeves. I have talked a lot about how on reality TV, they have all these integrations and they're so not disclosed. I mean, they're disclosed like in the credits at the very end.
Right.
And I always, every time I see one, like I watch a lot of History Channel and they'll do like on Pawn Stars, they were like eating Subway sandwiches or something stupid.
Yeah.
And, like if that was social media, it would say like hashtag ad, like right under their face and be so obvious. And with TV, you don't have, it's way lower key from a disclosure perspective.
Well, that was the sort of stuff I did. I did all of those negotiations. And it's funny, actually, my very first product placement was Pete's. And I just flew to New York a couple of weeks ago and I rewatched the movie. It was Good Will Hunting. I placed Pete's Coffee in the Good Will Hunting movie. That was my first product placement. Again, dating myself. But it's that, at least in reality TV, it's all those negotiations is what I handled, right? It was like, okay, do you get a verbal mention? Do you get a visual mention? Do you get a credit? All that sort of thing. So negotiating those integrations with the brands is what I did on the reality TV side, mostly.
And then how did that transition to Ergobaby?
Ergobaby, yeah, that's the funny story. So the last show that I did as a reality TV producer is Biggest Loser. At the time, my daughter was probably close to 2 because I started with Ergo in 2012. When she was born, I started freelancing. I went back to PR and was, doing freelance PR, writing, doing a lot of content. And I worked for this really cool company called the Content Department. I mean, there's this amazing guy named Barack in New York, and he would send me all these clients and I would write blog posts or, that just content, right? Websites, that kind of thing. And one day he called me and he's like, hey, he's in New York. He's like, hey, I'm coming to LA. I'm pitching this client. I think he would be perfect. I was like, oh, okay. Who? And he's like, Ergobaby. And I was literally wearing my daughter in the Ergo at that. And I was like, oh my God, yes. So when I started freelancing for Ergo, I was still finishing up a job at Biggest Loser. And so I started with Ergo as a freelancer. And then and then my Biggest Loser job ended and the director of digital asked me if I wanted to stay on. And it was one of those things for me when I looked around in reality TV, when I looked around in production, 90% of the other women were either very young and hadn't had children yet, or they were older than me and had decided like I'm not having kids.
Right.
And here I was with a 2-year-old, like, where do I fit in here? You know, and production's a lot. You know, if I had a client that we were placing something and we were shooting at 11 o'clock at night, I had to be there to, you know, liaison with the client. And I was like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, it was one of those serendipitous, but again, the thread through all of it really was content, right? It's like
Right.
that content and how do we show the brand and how do we integrate brands into and tell stories.
Right.
So that's kind of always been the thread through my career, even though it's kind of disparate.
And so I mean, your job has, we'll talk a little bit about some of the various ways in which it has evolved, but like, how would you describe your job? I almost just said mixer, which makes it sound like we're in junior high school, but you know, you're at some kind of event and someone asks you what you do. How do you describe it?
Right. All right, Danielle, how much time do we have? It's morphed a lot. In fact, I was just thinking this past year added some people to my team. So now my title is shifting. So it's director of content and communications. So we've added an editor and we've added a copywriter to my team. So in a nutshell, as the director of content and communications, I oversee most of the consumer-facing communications. So PR, influencers, social media, and then any of the content that gets created to go on those channels, essentially. So we're shooting, you know, the social media has changed so much in even just the past year. We're creating so much content for so many different channels. So that was kind of how my position has morphed into more content. So again, that the content and the storytelling piece, and then how influencers, you know, weave into that PR. It's all pretty interrelated. And then events.
Yeah.
And that's the other piece that I oversee.
I mean, I'm thinking back in 2011, 2012, it was, I mean, I know having started Sway Group in 2011, we were just doing blogs and Twitter.
Yeah.
That was it. And I mean, the amount of content that brands need right now, I mean, great for Sway Group because we can help with some of that, but it's completely overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming. In fact, it's funny you should mention Twitter. I have been talking to my my boss. I'm like, I'm getting off Twitter. You know, I was like I spoke at a social media or digital marketing conference last year, probably through you guys. And one of the pieces of advice I gave was you don't have to be on every channel. You just have to be on the channels that are relevant to your brand. And for us, Twitter's not relevant anymore. And frankly, even Facebook's starting to not be so relevant. I mean, most moms are on Instagram and TikTok, and that's it.
Yeah.
But the amount of content that we have to create, I mean, Instagram in and of itself is several channels. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I look at the contracts that we're doing and it's, you know, static posts, reels, stories. I mean, Instagram.
Right. That's 4 channels basically right there. Right. Just Instagram, you know?
Yeah. It's overwhelming.
For us, it's all about the visuals for us.
Cute babies. Really. I mean, you can't really beat it.
Cute babies. Yeah.
So, I mean, when we were talking about just kind of like the sheer number of platforms and amount of content, but what other ways have you seen influencer marketing and the work that you do with influencers change throughout the year? 2021, I did like a guest lecture at a couple of business schools, and I was talking about the difference in influencer marketing in the last 10 years. And one of the examples I show is it's an Ergobaby photo from a piece of Rebecca Wolf content. And it was a photo of her, I think it was a photo of her pregnant with the twins and just talking about getting ready, something like that.
Amazing.
And it was so like, I think one of her other kids took the photo and it's like kind of grainy and she's just standing in front of her door and it's like not staged and it's not, you know, and then I compared it to a photo that we
I know that
would
picture.
use now in an actual piece of Ergobaby content now. And it's gorgeous. It could be in any kind of print magazine. It's totally styled. And I mean, so from our perspective, we certainly have seen some of it's just technology, like the quality of photos that we can take now is very different, but I'm just interested to hear your perspective on how that's changed.
Yeah. I mean, well, even just where the content was showing up. I mean, we were sponsoring bloggers, I mean, even my accounting line, it's still called the blog line. You know what I mean? Like blogger advertising, I think, is what it's still called. And, I can't even think of one influencer that we work with that's blogger, that blogs, it has a blog. I think the other thing too that I've been thinking about, at least recently, how things have shifted is, well, a lot of the influencers are getting more savvy, and understanding things about usage and rights and all that sort of thing, which is great, but it's also sometimes making things, cost prohibitive. And, for us, I also think about things, the difference between, say, a content creator and an influencer. Sometimes we'll contract directly with a content creator to create content for us for our channel. And that's different than them creating content to post on their channel, which to me is advertising. I want your audience and I want you to post about it versus creating something that we're going to use for our channel. So I'd say that has definitely, that proliferation of, content creators, like everyone's a content creator, but not necessarily everyone's an influencer. And where's that line too? And the other thing, you and I have talked about this, that still, and this is why I love you guys so much, is that still happening a little bit is I do still feel like sometimes it's the wild, wild west where someone, will charge something and then frankly be very unprofessional, like not get back to, oh, my kid, oh, my, and I'm old school. I'm like, okay, you're an we place our money, we place our ad. We're expecting you to, to be professional and to post it and to, provide us with a report. And that's not always the case, So that's still one of my frustrations, which is why I love you. I love working with you guys. You're that middle.
We take on that headache.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's, for me, just the proliferation, has been, and it's just exploded. And you can do something with someone on such a small, you can do one post. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, back in the old days, like, there was so many media outlets and you would post on those outlets. Well, now it's just like thousands, thousands. So it's like, where do we hedge our bets? Yeah. And for us, there's even that added thing for Ergobaby where babies age out. So we can't even pick an influencer and say, oh, we love that influencer. They provide us great content. We're just going to stick with them and have a great relationship with them and continue to, because the baby ages out, and we're constantly having to bring new people into the funnel. People aren't thinking about Ergobaby until they're pregnant, Right. So that's for us. I mean, it's not necessarily a change for influencers, but that on top of how influencer marketing has shifted, it's like an additional challenge for us.
Support for The Art of Sway and all the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by Memento. If you have your own podcast, producing it is half the battle. Promoting it is the other half. What if you could upload your episode, video or audio, and have AI pull out the best moments to use in social media promotions? You can with Memento. Upload the video or audio, review the recommended clips, click a couple of buttons, customize the colors and fonts, and hit save. Instant Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Facebook or LinkedIn posts, all with video or audio embedded for dynamic promotions that drive people to the episode. And the AI kicks out show notes, transcripts, and even social media captions. All you do is review and post. Go check it out. MPN listeners can try it for free at bit.ly/MomentoMPN. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/MomentoMPN. Yeah, I mean, not only are you constantly having to become aware of new platforms and all the new types of content that you have to create, you have this added stress/pressure/job of having this all. I know for us, we're always on recruiting for you guys. Like the second someone's pregnant, right? We're like,
exactly. Yeah. So that's probably, I mean, I again, it's not quite what you asked, but just thinking about for us, that challenge of influencer marketing, it's a lot different than other brands, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that we have seen change is just the increased willingness of brands to let creators have their own voice and do things in a way that will make sense to their audience. We saw that it used to be a lot more heavy-handed, I think, because there was this kind of carryover from traditional media where you have full creative oversight of what's being created.
Right.
You guys you were always a little bit different, I think, just because you kind of were in that space yourself and got it and appreciated what they could, which is why we always call you our favorite client. Don't listen to other clients.
Oh.
But like you kind of got it, right? But for some clients, it used to be a lot harder to kind of get clients to understand that you have to let go a little bit to get something truly amazing. I don't know if that's changed for you at all. Like, even though you've always been pretty good at it, I imagine it gets easier.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know. It was never necessarily hard for me. I mean, for me, I always thought that that's the beauty of working with influencers is you get to see an authentic, you know, real use of the product. And especially for something like parenting, sure, there can be aspirational aspects to parenting, but let's be honest, like it really is like down and dirty in the trenches sometimes. And I've always recognized that power of storytelling and that power of connection, like you're not going to connect, at least for the baby carrier, people have an emotional connection to their baby carrier. It's not like, oh, this is my cell phone cover or my cell phone case or my diaper bag, or they have an emotional connection. So to be able to work with influencers who can also tell that story and evoke that connection and be like, I see you. Like I see myself carrying one, like, you know, again, going to Rebecca, like holding one baby and having the other baby in a carrier and maybe like being super overwhelmed. So I think that for me, that's always been the beauty of working with influencers. And, you know, I think it's funny you mentioned that because I was at a, conference. I was sitting in the audience and this woman was giving a lecture and talking about or a workshop and talking about, you know, you have to let them have creative license. You know, you can give them guardrails, but let them have creative license to do. And here are 3 examples. And one of them was one of mine.
Oh,
as, you know, as an example of someone who give them the product, give them the guardrails, and then let them do their thing and tell their story. So that's always been super important to me, is to really to see those true, authentic. I know authentic is such an overused word, but I don't think there's anything else like it.
I think it's accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been excited about recently, I'm not a huge TikTok. I always joke I'm like such an old lady. I see all my TikToks on Instagram.
I know, same.
The old days, like when I was a mom blogger and kind of came up with the idea for this agency and was doing all this, everything was so authentic. Like you saw all the dirt and the messiness and the tears and all the of being a young mom. And it was very real and authentic.
Right.
And then, you know, there was this shift towards aspirational. And I think, you know, as technology got better and people could make something that looked very professional, the content kind of followed and aesthetics became very important. And rooms looked miraculously neat and like there were no kids living in them. And everything got very kind of rosy and
sterile.
Sterile. Perfect word. I feel like with TikTok, there's this shift back to authentic. My daughter watches babies all summer and is obsessed with all of the young mom TikTok. Like all she watches is babies on TikTok.
Amazing.
And she'll show them to me, and it's, I mean,
can I
it's
hire
very
your daughter?
real.
Can we hire your daughter, please? That's what we need.
Well, you know, she had the whole nursery at her camp using Ergobaby last summer.
I know.
But
I love it.
Like it is very real now, and you're seeing that messiness again, which is so, like, just coming at it from a personal perspective. Had I been a young mom when things were in that more aspirational realm, I think I would have felt kind of lost and like there wasn't anyone going through all the shit like I was. It's so important for moms kind of in that really tough early stage of parenthood to see that others have that. Like, it's hard for everyone.
Well, you want to be seen. I mean, you want to be seen as a mom. You want to see yourself and you want to be seen. And, I think, it's funny, like I'm thinking about some of the messiness and realness and I'm like, oh, well, reality TV, although reality TV is not messy and it's not
I was
real.
going to say,
I mean,
it's not, from what I've heard, it's not real.
I will tell you right now, it is very constructed. But the idea of, I guess I go back here again, old school, like The Real World, like the very first reality show, and really just seeing people, what their lives are like. And, we do have a little bit of that voyeurism, right? We want to see, like sometimes as a mom, I'm like, is this what I should be doing all day? Am I really sitting here on the floor with my kid all day long? Are other people doing that too? So I think that idea, documentary style, like fly on the wall, I think is really interesting. Like, what do you do in your day and how do you get through your day? The joys and the jobs, I mean, we do all of these things that make us cry and changing the diapers and all that because of this immense love that we have for our children. Unfortunately, we don't raise children in community anymore. We're raising our children in isolation. One point of connection is online, and it is a mom seeing another mom going, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one doing that. I'm not the only one who can only get my baby to nap in the ergo. I'm not the only one who has to put them in the bouncer so I can take a shower or whatever it is. I think that's the piece for me that really, I don't know, makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And that's always, I mean, yes, the aspirational ones, it's lovely to have beautiful photos. And it was, but I think even then, even during that kind of aspirational period, we had pushback in our community saying like, this isn't real. And I was like, you're right. And for a while we were casting, models and babies for photo shoots. And I was like, no, we need to shift that. We need to cast actual real families and show that there are real families using our products. There are real families out there that we are supporting, So I think that shift back to actual reality or authenticity or, unfortunately, until we raise our kids in a village again, that's all we have sometimes.
Right.
That's all some of us have is this,
So on that note of showing real people, it has always been very important to you and to Ergobaby to have diversity of creators within your campaigns, which we love because it's always been important to us too. After George Floyd was murdered and there was all this social unrest, we suddenly had other clients asking for the same thing, which it was like, finally, like we've been telling you. But have you, because it's something that was always important to you guys, did anything shift for you at all in that 2020 time frame? I mean, I feel like the whole world turned itself over at that point, but I'm just curious because it was always a priority for you.
I'll be honest. I've always been, I think sometimes the people I reported to don't always understand exactly what it is I do. It's hard to explain sometimes if you're not in the trenches. And I don't know that the past CEO really understood what it was that we were doing. And, it's always, so I've always operated like, I don't want to say independently by any means, but I've always had the support that I can create like what I want to create and show, so yes, it's always been important to me to make sure that we're showing the breadth. Again, like going back to what I was saying is a mom wants to be seen. She wants to see herself. She wants to relate. And if we're only showing people who look a certain way, then we're alienating a whole nother group of people who aren't seeing themselves. So yes, that's always been super important. So if anything, everything that went on in 2020 illuminated these issues, made it okay, maybe made it less taboo. And, like I said, I've always had the support of my team, and the current CEO is absolutely in support. But like I said, it definitely allowed for a lot more. Oh, okay. This is real, like, again, it's always there. It's always been there. It's just, we were able to illuminate like, this is really what's happening. So I think it just allowed us to have a little bit more support. And like I said, I've always been able to have, I don't want to say leeway, but I've always been able to have the ability to create content that is relevant to our audience. And our audience
Right.
is not just, it doesn't look a certain way. So if I'm tasked with creating authentic and relevant content that people can relate to, then we have to have diverse content.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just that's a bare minimum, frankly.
So on like a different note from influencer marketing, but I've heard you say
Yeah.
that baby wearing can change the world, and I want to hear
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the platform to tell us how.
Yes. Well, and sometimes I get emotional still. I mean, I've been working for Ergobaby for 11 years and I still get emotional. I mean, I do feel like, I mean, again, just on a personal note, the work I do has to have meaning. And yes, Ergobaby is a company that we make a profit. We're, a corporate company, and we create baby carriers, which, yes, I believe can change the world. Quick science lesson. There's a thing that's called attachment theory. It's a scientific theory that is essentially how well your caregivers attune to you. So between 0 and 3 is the most important period creating this attachment style. And so this attachment style will essentially stay with you for the rest of your life. It will inform all of your relationships for the rest of your life. Can it change? Yes, but it takes a lot of awareness and it takes a lot of work to change your attachment style. Again, I'm totally oversimplifying this, but essentially, there's a secure attachment, which means you can have, secure relationships with other people. You feel safe, you feel grounded. And then there's a insecure, and under insecure, there are several different, anxious, avoidant, disorganized, all that sort of thing. So that attachment style that sticks with you for the rest of your life and informs all of your relationships happens between 0 and 3. Mm-hmm. What's happening between 0 and 3? Well, parents are overwhelmed. They're, stressed. They're what have you. There have been studies that show that baby wearing promotes a secure attachment, so that the parent or the caregiver who is attending to the child can be more attuned to the needs of the child. And then that child will then develop a secure attachment, which will then stay with them for the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, you go interview someone on death row, or you interview someone in a prison, or you talk to people who've committed crimes, or most of them have insecure attachments, addiction issues, disorganized attachments. It's one of those things that is literally the basis of our human inner relationships and connections, yet we rarely talk about it. I mean, there's some great books out there and there's amazing science out there for sure. But I really, truly believe that if one mom who maybe didn't wear her baby or didn't think, oh, I'm going to have my baby in a baby carrier, changes her mind and wears her baby in a baby carrier, then my work is done. Like if I can change one mom, there have been very few studies, actually. There was only one study in 1986 that showed babies being carried in carriers reduces crying by 40%. 40%. Wearing a baby in a baby carrier reduces crying by 40%. I mean, that's huge. And that study came out in 1986. And then until very recently, there have been very few studies. Recently, I'd say since I've been working at Ergobaby, a lot of women, Emily Little at Nurturely, Leela Williams, being moms themselves, they've both done these studies and been doing studies that literally show that baby wearing increases secure attachment, it increases breastfeeding rates. At the Hazelden Institute, Joshua Sparrow showed that it reduces the mother's heart rate, baby wearing. I mean, it's incredible. Just wearing your baby can do. And even like the skin to skin, like take it a step further and wear your baby, like take your shirt off. You're just nursing all day, wear them naked. Like it's amazing what that will do, like the benefits for babies. So I feel like the more people in this planet who have secure attachments, it's literally going to change our world. And that is the time to do it, that 0 to 3, because it's possible to change your attachment style when you're older, but
it's rough.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder. So I'm super passionate about that. And I know I went on for a while.
No, it's fine. But I was just going to say on that note, you guys have this Everlove initiative, which is helping to bring baby carrying to more people.
To more accessible. Exactly.
Yeah. So how does that work?
The idea with Everlove is the circular economy, right? So if we're going to make the world better, well, we got to make sure the world's here for those children, right? So then how can we do our part to then keep the planet? And one of the best ways to take care of the planet is the circular economy. So Everlove then will take carriers, because all our carriers have a lifetime guarantee. I mean, most parents will wear their carrier for multiple children. They're made so well, but you don't necessarily need it for that long. If you only have one kid, one and done. So it'll take those carriers and put them back in the circular economy. And yes, they'll be more accessible for more people.
I love it.
And we donate. I mean, of course, we work with Baby to Baby. When you go on Everlove and send your carrier in, you can choose to get a gift card, but you can also make a donation to Baby to Baby. And then we donate carrier donations to Baby as well.
So this season that you are appearing on, season 3, is dedicated to women 50 plus, because I'm turning 50 this year and just got this wild idea that I would elevate all the women.
I love it. I love it. I love that I'm in that club.
Yes. I'm excited. Actually, I was asking for recommendations on who to talk to, and someone responded to me and said that a lot of women don't like to share their age. And I was like, really? In 2020, I didn't know that was still a thing. I'm like, super proud.
I know. I'm 50. I have gray hair.
Same. So we're asking all the guests this season to share with us a woman who has influenced you, inspired you, who has just meant something to you in your life.
There are so many that I could name, but one of the women that really sticks out to me, and I still call her, she's still my mentor, is our former CMO, Cynthia. She was a working mom, older than I am, and her kids are older than mine. So, it's funny to think about when you think about your parents, like being a working mom is so ubiquitous now, but for our moms, it wasn't. And for even the generation right before us, it wasn't. It was hard. It was hard. I mean, it's still hard. Don't get me wrong. It's still hard being a working mom, but it's definitely more accepted. She was one of those kind of women who forged the path to be one of the first working moms. And she's wicked smart and just really puts her heart into everything. I mean, I think sometimes women think that when they come into the workplace, they have to be more like men. And that's not the case. I think let's bring more vulnerability in, that's why I always had an issue with Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In. I was like, no, let's not lean into the patriarchy. Yeah. Let's smash the patriarchy and make it more soft and vulnerable so that people can really be who they are. And we don't have to kill ourselves being a working mom. And that's something that Cynthia really taught me and I got to work with her for a long time at Ergobaby, and she works at Children's Hospital now, which of course she works at Children's Hospital now. I mean, but having that mentor and someone to really show me that it's okay, that whole thing, Brene Brown, it's okay to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is actually strength and courage. And she demonstrated that, leading as example, in a really beautiful way. So I would definitely say she was, at least in my career, one of the most inspirational women.
Love it. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so great. I feel like I need to invite you every season just so we can keep catching up.
I know. I'm like, this went by so fast. I'm like, wait, that's it?
Yeah.
We can't keep chatting?
Well, this was awesome. Thank you again. It was great.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please check back next Monday for a new episode featuring marketing conversations through the lens of influence. I am your host, Danielle Wiley, and this is The Art of Sway.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business and your life? Deb Eckerling hosts a great podcast called The Deb Show. Deb, tell the folks what they'll get out of listening.
Every week, I bring together 3 friends to dive into the topic, and it's anywhere from business professional to that all-important work-life balance. So it's always great personalities and a lot of fun and good conversation.
Awesome. We love that. Where can people subscribe?
Go to thedebmethod.com or find the show at marketingpodcast.net or search for The Deb Show wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.